Oh, what a night. It was late December back in... Wait a minute, that's the wrong month and definitely the wrong year. Hi, how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome to the Hump Day session of Chattin on the Porch. A fun, lively little thing that we do here on social media where we get together with you. We talk about the news, we give our views, we see if we can't solve all the world's problems, or at least make ourselves feel better doing it. We are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. So please do some favors to a brother and a sister, which I'll explain that here in just a minute. Do a favor to the brother and the sister and send out the link. Tell your friends to get in here. We have got a ton of stuff to talk about tonight. And we're going to be co-hosted by one of my absolutely favorite people in the whole of social media, so I can't wait to bring her on here in just a minute. As soon as I get through pontificating, as I am prone to do at the start of these live streams. But I think you all like my pontifications. At least I hope you do. Anyway, my name is Brian Trippett. Again, I am the Front Porch Conservative. As always, I am the fine fella in the fedora. I am sometimes known as the wise guy in the wide brim. Occasionally, I'm referred to as the common man with common sense. But in this moment, at this hour, I am above all things your host. Again, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter, and we are on YouTube. So please share the link around. If you're not subscribed to my channel, why don't you go ahead and do it? You know you want to anyway. Besides, it's what all the cool kids are doing. Also, share the link, hit the thumbs up, give a comment in chat, do all those things you guys do that make you the greatest audience on the internet, outside of my co-host, of course. And, you know, let's build this thing up. Let's have ourselves a party tonight, because, oh my gosh, have we got stuff to talk about. It is going to be a good time on the old electronic front porch tonight, and I'm sure you will agree, you shall be revived when you shall leave this place. Cannot wait to get into it. I can feel it now. The band is winding it down. All right, thank you, boys. We do appreciate it. Over there in the corner, please give a round of applause to the Front Porchers, our imaginary band that occasionally plays some opening music for us. All right, let me bring this lovely young lady in. You have seen her before. She has her own channel. She is the hostess and proprietrix of GenX Marks the Spot. Please help me welcome back to the channel my good friend, Miss Tracy Barkley. How you doing, lovely?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And what an introduction. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, you know, I tried to, you know, put everything out there, but also hold off on discretion because, you know, that whole dominatrix thing, we still haven't had the conversation yet, but that's all right. We'll get into that one of these days. Oh goodness. Let's see who else hanging out in the house tonight, or on the porch, as it say. TBA is here, and he is representing the wing nuts over on Rumble so far. Let's see. Dave H says, Brett killed it. Well, I'm very sorry that he killed it. Does anybody know that he killed it? Do we really want to share this information that he killed it? What did he kill, for heaven's sake? Oh, my word. Oh, goodness me. Okay, well, a little more detail. Can't wait to hear what you and chat have to say about Kalamalamala is the worst. No credibility at all. We'll get into that. We're going to get into that, Mr. David. Don't you worry about that. Hello, Lana, my lovely. Mwah, good to see you, darling. Gypsy. Mwah, good to see you, darling. Let's see. Who else is here in the house? All right. Audience is slowly settling in, and WWG1 is bringing the memes. So we'll get to the memes here momentarily, sir. We will get to the memes. Good to have you all here tonight. And we're going to do something a little bit different for the Hump Day session of Chattin on the Porch. We're going to do a round robin of topics, some presented by Tracy, some presented by myself. We'll bat them back and forth across the net, so to speak. And, you know, you guys feel free to chime in on them. And yes, I do see that we have a couple of memes. But I'll tell you what, while I set those up, we're going to go ahead and let Miss Tracy start off the festivities this evening with the first topic of the night. And can't wait to get your guys' reaction. Now, don't worry. I know some of y'all out there are just waiting for Tracy and I to like slice and dice this interview between Brett and Kalamalamala. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We're going to tease you a little bit here, just make you wait. But we will get to it. But with that, Miss Tracy, please present.
All right. Well, for those of you that have not been on my channel, my channel is maybe 5% politics. I come over here to get my political fix. I tend to focus on history, horror movies, and true crime. My audience is not really tolerant of politics, so I don't talk about it a whole lot over there. So they're always wanting me to get back to horror movies. And they're like, Tracy's the crazy aunt. We're going to let her rant about politics, and then she'll get back to horror movies. So that's kind of what I do. But I'm going to bring a taste of my channel over to you guys because I think it's very interesting what's going on in Hollywood right now. You can take this back to the success of movies like Sound of Freedom, Am I Racist? And most interestingly, the success of two independent horror films recently called Long Legs, which has already made over $100 million, and Terrifier 3. Now, whatever you think about horror movies, just bear with me. This is relevant, culturally relevant, I promise. But what I find, I'm going to share this article here, is that we have a mainstream movie to a comic book franchise, Joker Foil Ado, which I understand is not such a good movie. I haven't seen it yet. Terrifier 3, I have finally seen, and I can contest that it is excellent if you enjoy a bloody slasher. But basically, Terrifier 3, which was fully crowdfunded by the fans, was made for maybe a tenth of the budget that Joker had, is just blasting Joker. It has already topped $20 million in 2 weeks. Dang. And is just blowing Joker out of the water.
Now, I have a question.
And this is...
I'm sorry. Sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What was the production?
Really, I just wanted to.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What was the production budget? What was the production budget on Terrifier 3? Just out of curiosity.
Let me. The production budget on Terrifier 2 was about $1 million.
Wow.
But let me look up Terrifier, and they were all crowdfunded. Terrifier 1 and All Hallows Eve, which were Damon Leone's first 2 movies, they were self-funded. He worked part-time jobs and funded those himself. So it was lean, incredibly lean. He crowdfunded Terrifier 2. It was about $1 million, and Terrifier 3 was made for $2 million.
And how much has Terrifier 3 made so far?
It's crossed $20 million.
They've made back 10 times the amount of money that it cost them to make thing, and it didn't cost, and the whole thing was paid for by fans. That's incredible. That's incredible. Right. Amazing.
And big studios wouldn't touch these franchises. The same with Long Legs. It's an indie film that had a bigger budget. We're talking $10-20 million budget, but it was not touched by a big studio. This was small companies coming together to fund this. Small investors. The same with Sound of Freedom. All of that was made through donations and Angel Studios and things like that. I mean, it was shelved by Disney for reasons. And then a small studio like Angel Studios bought the rights and basically was just going to try to make their money back. And it ended up, breaking into the top 5 films while it was out. And the same for Am I Racist? Matt Walsh, that was made for, I believe Matt Walsh said $1.8 million. And it crossed over 10 million itself. So the reason I'm even bringing this onto your channel is that Hollywood is dying. Big machine Hollywood is slowly dying. And you have independent creators that are doing art for art's sake, and art because they love it is starting to come to the forefront, making entertainment for entertainment's sake. They're not political. It's not woke. It's not for any agenda except it's what the fans want to see. And I, as a movie critic and horror movie fan, love to see it.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, and you bring up a very valid point, and and especially the month of the year that we're in, talking about horror movies like these make it an even interesting thing. Is that, it's been no secret to anybody. Hollywood has had maybe in the past 5 years, I could say less than 10 movies that truly were profitable.
Yeah.
It's had more movies than I can count where they have absolutely lost their collective ass. It doesn't matter whose studio you're talking about, if it's Disney
Big
or
budget, big budget, like big Hollywood scripts that made money. I think you got to go back to Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick's a good example.
Because you had Tom Cruise having a whole lot of say in that. You had the last Mission Impossible made money. The Last Born made money. But what were the intricate parts of those 3 movies? They weren't political. They were just good entertainment.
Good movie, yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, now you've got Sound of Freedom. If memory serves me right, Sound of Freedom cost them roughly $10 million to make. And it's well over $100 million. And it was only released initially in the United States. That movie didn't get overseas until maybe 3-4 months after initial release.
Yep.
And it was extraordinary. And the thing that carried Sound of Freedom forward was word of mouth.
Yeah.
People would come out of the theaters, they'd go online, they'd say, "Hey, this is a movie you've got to go." It's a very heavy subject matter, but you got to go see it.
Hollywood tried to kill it. They tried to say all these nasty things about it, and you had the Streisand effect.
Yep, and it just amplified it out. WWG1 over on Rumble says, "So the propaganda machine known as Hollywood is dying. I am not sad. Neither are we, by the way." And he also says, and that's also because they wouldn't. I blow Diddy. Oh my God, WWG1. I don't want to know what forms of fellatio they're performing on who. Thank you. I disavow that comment. Just, oh my God, you're awful. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, well, Lana, I'm the same way, dear. That is literally the last movie that I've gone to the theater to see. I mean, I am somewhat, and you could probably say the same thing. I am somewhat spoiledly jaded in that I've come across you, Nerderotics, The Critical Drinker, a whole bunch of other people. And if you guys don't, and I'm not saying this because you're just here, I would say this even if you weren't here. If you tell me, if I go to you and say, "Hey, Tracy, I'm thinking about going to see this movie. Should I really pay the money for it?" And you're like, nope, thumb down. I'm like, "Oh, that's all I need." I mean, my online movie reviewers, you guys have taken the place of, the legendary Siskel and Ebert. For me, I can't speak to everybody else, but for me, it's like you guys are the Siskel and Ebert of the modern era. You, Nerderotics, Drinker, all of y'all. Harlow. I'll throw all you guys into that. If you guys, come out and say, it's not that really good. The Top Gun Maverick, I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it at home, but that was only after I saw you guys review it. Sound of Freedom, I was like, okay, if you guys online are giving this thing a good, all right, this is worth the money, but you're right. Hollywood is just flat dying.
I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Scream 6, and it was good. But it was honestly the people that took over the rights from Wes Craven, that bought the rights from Wes Craven's family, started out as YouTubers. Yeah. They are fans. So you could say that was the same kind of thing. They had studio backing, but they did it. They followed canon, and they did it from perspective of fans. The same with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I also saw in the theater, which was excellent. You had somebody that really respected the franchise and didn't put a whole lot into it except what fans wanted to see. So all these movies that we're talking about, they were made for the fans, which is what you should be making them for. You don't piss off your fan base, Kathleen Kennedy. You bow down to your fan to a certain extent. You bow down to your fan base and you stick with canon, and you just expand on that canon.
Well, let me ask you a question. As somebody who reviews movies, is a fan of movies, where do you think? I mean, is this crowdfunding system that the folks who made Terrifier 3 and Longlegs and others Longlegs was not crowdfunded. I apologize. But do you think this is where we're going, where smaller studios are going to either try to self-fund to get around all of the red tape that is old Hollywood. Where does it go from here? I mean, is the
think that's where it's
industry changing?
going. And as a person who has had the the extreme privilege of being in two indie horror films and being a production assistant on one, another one, that is where it's going. Definitely. All you really, you have to fund the movie. Then you have to find a distributor for the movie that's willing to just pick it up and distribute it and then give you, after they make their money back, they give you the profits. Or you crowdfund or you self-distribute, which is what Daily Wire did with Am I Racist? So yeah, that's how you get around all of the red tape. You do it yourself. And there are a lot of small distributors, small film companies out there that are willing to take that risk if it's a good piece of art. They're willing to do that.
Well, and not just I say red tape, and that's probably not the best way to describe. Probably not the best way to describe it. To me, crowdfunding, self-financing the film gives you more freedom to create the kind of art that you want to create, absent all of Hollywood's rules about DEI and political correctness, and we like this form of speech, we don't like this person. I mean, all the junk that has infected movies over the past 10, 15 years, maybe longer, but exactly. 10 or 15 years.
Right now, Scream 7 is on hold because one of the stars, she is of Arab descent, and she does not agree with what's going over with Israel and Palestine. And you know good and well, I am pro-Israel. She spoke out against Israel.
Yeah.
And she was kicked off the movie because of that.
Oh, God.
One of the new stars. And even though I'm kind of divided on that because that has been happening to our side for years. So I'm a little bit, I agree with my buddy Mike Harlow. I'm a little bit, taste of your own medicine. But then the true free speech person in me is like, I don't care what she has to say about it. Yep. She is the new protagonist of the Scream franchise. She needs to be in it. Bring her back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I wish, and I think we've talked about this before, and if I've used this story, stop me. I wish Hollywood would get back to the place that it used to be, where even if people didn't agree with one another, they could still get together and make a film. I mean, to me, one of the best examples, and I recommend this to anybody out there, there's an interview that Kirk Douglas did with Dick Cavett. And this was probably late 60s, early 1970s. And you can find the clip out on YouTube. It's out on social media. And Cavett, which, by the way, if you've never watched a Dick Cavett interview, do so. I recommend it to you. You want to see somebody that can really do a really good interview? That's what Dick Cavett used to do back in the day.
I've seen no film of Dick Cavett. And I love him. And I will always love him because he was actually in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. He and Zsa Zsa Gabor, they did a mock interview where Dick Cavett turned into Freddy Krueger and killed Zsa Zsa Gabor. And I will always love Dick Cavett just for that fact he was able to lower himself to be in a slasher film.
Well, he was doing an interview with Kirk Douglas, and they got on the subject of John Wayne, because by that point in Kirk Douglas's career, he and Wayne had done at least 2 films. And I'm trying to think if there was a third, but they had done In Harm's Way, and they'd done another movie together. I can see it in my mind. I can't think of it. It has the word giant in the title.
Was it the movie Giant about the oil family?
No. That was James Dean, Rock Hudson, and Elizabeth Taylor. But anyway, Cavett was asking, he said, look, everybody knows your political views, and everybody knows that, John Wayne is a, pretty conservative fella, Republican around town. How do you guys navigate that when you guys are on a movie set together? He said, and Kirk Douglas said something very interesting. He said, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. Number one, we don't spend that much time together on the set. We'll have dinner maybe twice off when we're not working. We'll have dinner maybe twice together. Aside from that, we don't hang out that much off set when we're not working. We're not filming. Number one. He said, number two, we just don't talk about it.
Yeah, you don't have to talk
Yeah.
about it.
He said, I know John's politics. John knows mine. John doesn't agree with me. And, on some things, I don't agree with John. We just don't bring it up.
Right.
We don't get into it. We don't talk about it. In today's Hollywood, if going into a film, everybody knows you're controversial because you hold an opinion that collective Hollywood doesn't agree with, oh man, you might not even be working on that film. You might even get cast in the role.
Exactly. God, how many this is what I love. Anytime a celebrity comes out, as being a conservative, they're automatically characterized as a pariah, or they're a never was, or they're a has been. And they say absolutely terrible things about him. I saw a friend of mine who he's a big liberal, has never been anything, will never be anything, just like me in Hollywood. When I tried to be in that, you don't, but yet had the audacity to call Kirstie Alley, one of the greatest actresses of our generation,
Absolutely.
a has been, and that she was never anything. I'm like, okay. North and South, Cheers. She had
Look Who's
Look Who's
Talking
Talking
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, I can name 100 movies she was in, as well
Yeah.
as Veronica's Closet, which was her own TV
Great
show.
series. Absolutely great series.
And then she even had a reality show just before her death. And you're telling me that you're calling Kirstie Alley a has been when you're a never will be?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and this goes to Robert's point, and I agree with him. What happened to agreeing to disagree and then just doing your effing job? There you go. I mean, you're absolutely right, my man. I don't disagree with you at all. And I saw a couple of questions up there from or one from Gypsy and then a comment from Lana, and I'll get to those here in just a second. But yeah, I mean, the only star that I can think of right now that is surviving under the coming out as conservative, and I don't think he really came out as a conservative so much, Chris Pratt.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Robert Downey Jr. and he wasn't doing it in a condescending sort of way. He wasn't doing it to be mean. He said, look, and this was when I think they were making the last Avengers movie. He said, look, we know Chris's politics. We know where he's at on certain issues. Fine. We're not going to give him grief about it. We're not going to pressure him to do or be something that he's not. And, we know he's going to respect us in the same way. And I thought, Robert, you just did your industry one of the biggest favors you ever could have.
Well,
And you don't even
Robert
realize it.
Downey is old school Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jon Favreau is a flaming liberal.
Yep.
But yet, who did he come out and defend when Disney fired her? Gina Carrera.
Yep.
Yep. He didn't care for her politics, but he tried to save her job because that's what decent people do.
Yeah.
I see them attack Kevin Sorbo, call him a has-been. I'm like, he was Hercules.
Yep.
He's still the definitive Hercules, and he's done 100 films since then. Just because he prefers to do Christian films, he prefers to show his faith. The same with Jim Caviezel. He prefers to do Christian faith-based films.
Well, but to go back to your original point, this is what I think a lot of actors and actresses are going to have to do to be a part of the craft that they love. Clifton Duncan, and I'm sure you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. Wonderful stage actor. Mm-hmm. Because he wouldn't take the jibby jabby. Mm-hmm. He got ran out of New York City, and now he's crowdfunding projects. He's got a project coming up related to the life of Dr. Thomas Sowell that he's working on right now. Blew the fundraising out of the water for it to make a one-man play. And I'm not sure when he's going to get that thing started, but I'm looking forward to it because Clifton Duncan is any number of things. If I could trade voices with one other human being outside of the late James Earl Jones mm-hmm. or Pierce Brosnan, it would be Clifton Duncan. That dude has the smoothest set of pipes I've ever heard.
They tried to cancel John Cleese because John Cleese, they've done the stage adaptation now, or they're doing the musical stage adaptation of Life of Brian.
Uh-huh.
They wanted him to take that line out where he talks about you can't change your sex, and then he tells him to go to an insane asylum. And they want him to take that out because it was transphobic, and he said, "The hell not! If that line's not in there, we won't do the musical." Guess what? They're doing the musical.
Exactly. And but yeah, I mean, granted, slasher horror movies aren't necessarily my gig. For those who love them, that's cool. But for me, I'm
As you
like
can
you.
see, I have a whole wall full of them up here for Halloween.
Yes, you do, baby. Yes, you do. And that's perfectly fine. But to me, to your greater point, and I agree with this, I think this is the way Hollywood's going to have to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting the tour,
I
folks.
got the Jason mask, and
Oh goodness, check all that out. Oh, I'll bet you're in 7 heaven this month.
this is my favorite month. If it wasn't for the damn election stressing me out, this would be my favorite. This is my favorite. Normally, my favorite time of year.
Oh goodness me, goodness me. So yeah, I mean, I think this is where Hollywood's going to have to go. I mean, for
You
people
have
who
to.
want,
And the great thing about you can do what you want to do because you're not. The only thing you have to worry about is the rating, the MPAA. That's the only thing you have to worry about.
well, and I think what's going to happen, and I could be wrong about this, but this is where I think is going to happen. You got serious money people in Hollywood, and when I say money people, they're like the hedge funds, the bank, the money people that finance these big studios currently, and sooner or later, they have got to be tired of losing their collective financial ass.
They've got. I mean, let's talk about Terrifier 3 again. Damon
Okay.
Leone.
Okay.
Why? I'm sure now that he's going to probably I hope he crosses into 6 digits, in the millions. I hope he does.
Yep.
But you know that big money Hollywood is now looking at him. He's done 3 movies, all self-funded or crowd-funded. He's made 10 times profit on all of them. What could he do if we gave him a real budget? So he's got to have these moneyed people going to be coming knocking on his door.
Bingo.
But I'm telling you, why would he want to even do business with those people? I wouldn't.
But,
I would keep it in the family so that I could do what I wanted to do.
But let me play the devil's advocate here for a second. See, I think what's going to happen, and this is just my prediction, 2 people talking on the electronic front porch. I think what's going to happen here is the leverage will be in the hands of the independent content creators. Because here you're going to have these money people coming to them saying, hey, I saw what you did with like $1 million. What if I gave you like a $50 million budget? Okay, one condition. I control the creativity.
Complete creative control.
And
that's in writing.
Yeah. And you don't get to dictate to me the terms on anything. You may finance it, but by George, I'm making it. And if any day I think you're double crossing me, we're done. Take your money and walk. And I really think that has the potential to happen here. And if independent content creators in film take that attitude and they realize they've got the leverage, it could be a whole new Hollywood. It really could. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, yeah. Anything else on this? Because I don't want to cut you short. Because I mean, I know you bring this thing.
This is pretty much everything. I just wanted to say because that is one of the things that I follow.
Okay.
That I think there's a turn being made in Hollywood.
I absolutely agree with you. I agree. And with that, that'll bring us. Oh, actually, this kind of works out very well. It's 7:30 Eastern here, 6:30 where Tracy is at out there in the world, and you have come to a session of Chattin on the Porch. Tonight, co-hosted by myself, the Front Porch Conservative, and my dear friend Tracy Barkley from GenX Marks the Spot. We are doing a thing where we kind of bounce topics back and forth with each other. She's bringing some, I'm bringing some, a little bit of politics, a little bit of culture, and a whole lot of fun, hopefully for you, our audience. So please do us a favor. If you are not subscribed to Tracy's channel, go ahead and give her a sub. If you're not subscribed to my channel on YouTube and Rumble, give a sub. And by the way, you YouTubers out there, check your subs on both of our channels because you know how YouTube is. They'd like to play a bunch of games. That's not very nice. Give a thumbs up.
Turn on your notifications because I have
turn on those notifications. Give those thumbs up. Leave those comments in chat. We love you guys. You're amazing. And with that, we will saunter on over to another section of the porch and we'll start getting into a topic. I've got a couple or 3 of them. Tracy's brought a couple 3 of them. And before we do, we're going to do our first meme of the night. And you may have heard that Donald Trump this Sunday will be working at the fryer at a local McDonald's in Georgia. Now, this is not a BS story. This is true. he will be, I don't know where in Georgia, but he has made arrangements, I guess, with the local McDonald's that he's going to be working, he's going to be making fries. And it may only last 10 minutes, but as Donald Trump has said, hey, it's 10 more minutes than Kamala Harris ever worked at a McDonald's. And he'll really make the point when he's standing there, working the fries. Now, Donald, being who he is, apparently has, even before he set foot in this McDonald's, has apparently made quite the impression on the management staff of this local franchise. And you know what? Our boy is doing fairly well here because, my gosh, who would have thunk it? A New York man's promoted to manager one day on the job. There you go, folks. He hasn't even put his foot through the door yet, and he's already in management of this local franchise. It's incredible the way this guy operates. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Although I think he needs to get a different hat. Just saying. Might want to MAGA that thing up. Maybe we could take the McDonald's symbol and the MAGA.
Put an AGA down the side of it. Vertically.
Exactly. Too funny. Thank you, WWG1, for that meme. And okay, let's talk about it. As you all are aware, Kamala Harris appeared with Brett Baer this evening on Special Report. Oh yeah, I know. And yeah, this
MAGA.
I love that. That's great. That is great. I love it, Robert.
You get the old supersized fry, a Big Mac, a supersized soda, and an American flag.
You can just see what's going to happen this Sunday. We're going to make McDonald's great again. The fries, we're going to make them bigger than ever. They're going to be beautiful. They're going to be beautiful. Huge.
Crispy. More crispy than they've
We're going to be more crispy. We're going to be so crispy. It's going to be incredible. People are going to be coming from all over the world to go to our McDonald's because we made it great again.
Look at Small Time Republic. Make McDonald's ice cream machine work again.
Make McDonald's. You guys are awesome. I love you. Oh, goodness. TBA over on Rumble says his reputation precedes him. Dude, you have no idea.
Would you not love to work in a commercial kitchen with Donald Trump? I worked in a commercial kitchen. That's what I cooked in the Army, and then I worked in kitchens after I left the Army. I would love to work with him in a kitchen where everything is unfiltered. That would be the greatest work day of my life.
Can you imagine talking trash with Donald Trump in a McDonald's kitchen area? Oh my gosh, these kids are going to have some stories. No matter what happens this election, like, man, let me tell you about the day I worked with Donald Trump. What do you mean worked with Donald Trump? He worked at my McDonald's. Get out of here. Yeah, it really happened.
And that's really happening. That's not
no, it's not a joke. I'm serious about this. The Trump campaign has announced that somewhere in Georgia this weekend, I think it's going to be on a Sunday, Donald Trump is going to work the French fry fryer at a local McDonald's franchise. Yeah, I've never worked at a McDonald's in my life. But I'll tell you,
I hope it's downtown Atlanta.
That'd be great.
So fun.
Oh, do you know if word gets out of which one he's at, how many people are going to be lined up around the block?
Bill Clinton went to a McDonald's in Georgia.
It's true. It's true. He walked in, and I almost felt sorry that this happened to old Bubba.
He's looking bad.
Man, all those years of marriage to Hillary are just, whoo.
Yeah, man, poor Jimmy Carter. I feel like the Democrats are like so up on elder abuse, what they're doing to Jimmy Carter, what they're doing to Joe Biden. And I know that Barack Obama is not that old, but he's got to be close to 60, if not 60.
Oh, he's probably in his 60s now. Absolutely.
Why are they making all these old elderly people but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That just want to sit down and rest. Let's not even talk about Joe Biden. Why are they pushing them out on the campaign trail again? Do they love elder abuse?
Well, but see, you bring up a very good question, which I think, look, every political party after an election does a lot of soul searching, winning or losing. But I think the Democrats, and don't worry, folks, we're going to get to these clips from the Kamala interview here in a minute. But I think the Democrats need to do some soul searching in a lot of respects, because stop and think about this for a second. The best surrogates you've got right now are Bubba Clinton, Joe Biden, and Barack Hussein Obama.
And even Jimmy Carter, even though he's barely conscious.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
You have a party that is calcifyingly old. And even the young bucks coming up behind them,
They're crazy.
Whitmer's probably what? I mean, Gypsy, how, if you don't
She's got to
know,
be my age. She's got to be 49, 50.
she's got to be in her 50s, maybe early 60s, who knows, but probably in her 50s. Newsom's in his early 60s.
Newsom's in his 60s? I thought Newsom was probably in his 40s.
No. Hang on a minute.
I'm gonna Google that. Hang on.
Yeah, you Google that. Now I'll start doing my thing over here. So the much anticipated political event of the night was Kamala Harris's interview with
He's 57. You're right.
Yeah, boy's getting up there.
55.
Yeah.
I mean, not that that's old. I'm about to enter my 50s, but you're right. They don't have any except like AOC and Ilhan Omar, and they're freaking anti-American crazies, and everybody knows it.
I know. Oh, and yeah, I saw this, dear. I haven't got it pulled up, but that might be a hodgepodge item for Saturday. Matter of fact, do me a favor, tag me on that, and I'll make that a hodgepodge item for Saturday. But we were talking about it backstage, this interview that Kamala Harris did with Bret Baier of Fox News, and I am of the conclusion that Kamala outsmarted herself by a half in this respect. According to Bret Baier, her office or her campaign called up Fox and said, hey, we want to talk to Bret. Bret gets on the phone. He's like, okay, what's up, guys? The vice president would like to do an interview. They'd like for you to interview her. Okay, what time do you want to do it? 5:30 in the evening. Guys, my show starts at 6 o'clock. Well, that's the only time she's got available. Well, Bret Baier said, okay, fine. You want to do it 5:30? 5:30 it is. Now, look, Fox has been trying to get her on the network to talk to them for the longest time. Now, we can sit here and debate the merits of Fox News as what it used to be 15 years ago versus what it is now. And believe me, it's a night and day difference. I don't disagree with any of that, but they've been trying to get her on. And they are viewed as the supposed conservative network. You can't tell me that Kamala Harris and her people did not know what time Bret Baier goes on the air. They jam-jobbed the guy. At least in my opinion. I could be wrong about this, but they jam-jobbed the guy.
Hey, Adam.
But Bret Baier did something very smart in a number of different respects. He said, okay, half an hour it is, but we're not going to edit anything. It's going to go on my show immediately after we're done, and it is what it is.
Meaning it was recorded and released live?
As it was. No.
So it wasn't live. They recorded it, and edited it, released it.
They did it the interview went from 5 to 5:30.
Okay.
Well, but okay, TBA says, what do you mean by jam job? By jam job, I mean they did this in such a way. They gave Bret Baier a slotted amount of time, and the slot they gave him in which to do this interview was right up against the start of his show. In other words, he couldn't really and I'm very sure Bret Baier wanted to do some kind of very thorough, elaborate interview, maybe an hour, maybe spread it out over 2 nights, what have you, okay? That's what I mean by jam job. They basically did this in such a way, all right, here's your half an hour, here's when we're going to do it, goodbye, out of here. No, they didn't give him any room to really do anything with it, okay? This is come back to haunt her. Now, I'm not going to show you everything, obviously. I'm going to show you 2 or 3 clips, and we'll talk about it. But Bret Baier did a number of smart things in this interview. One of them is he didn't act like currently typical Fox News. In his own way, he went after her. And you'll see some of that in these clips. Okay? That's why I say she outsmarted herself by a half. She got what she wanted, but she's not going to get what she wanted. She wanted a thing where she waltzes in, gives her answers, and get it out and say, oh, well, I went on Fox News. No. You sat down with Bret Baier, and Bret Baier needed to do a tough interview for a number of reasons, but one of them is this. They know they're still bleeding viewership, be it to Newsmax or One America Network or Real America's Voice, whomever. Okay.
Or the Aussies. What are the Aussies? Is that Newsmax?
Sky News.
Sky News.
Sky
I like
News.
the Aussies.
But they're still owned by the Murdochs. So, I mean, in one sense, it's competition, but it's not. He knew he had to do a tough interview because if he gave her any softballs, if they thought the people leaving Fox News before was bad when they fired Tucker, this would kick it back up into gear again. So with that, we've got a couple of clips here, and I'll set this first one up. There's a question that, people have been trying to ask her, for which she's been trying to get around answering it, and that is, if you're the new direction, why does the country think you're on the wrong track? Okay. So with that, here you go.
Frankly, exhausted of Bret.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, frankly.
She's trying to blame Trump, and he hasn't been in office in 4 years. I wish Bret had thought on his feet there and said, but Democrats have been in control for 12 of the last 16 years.
He didn't do that, and I grant you that. But, he's like, well, if you are turning the page, then why does
Trump's been running for 10? What does that matter? What does that matter if Trump's been running for 4 years? That has no effect on the economy.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, my dear. I mean, she's been part of she's been one of the two people holding the levers of power. She's been in the office for the past 3.5 years. 4 out of every 5 voters say the country is going in the wrong direction. She cannot legitimately throw that back and say, but Donald Trump has been running. That does not matter.
I love how he kind of cut her off there and said that. How can you say that? That has nothing, but you're the one in power.
This is what I'm saying. He, for a half an hour, politely.
He was the old.
Oh, yeah. Politely went after her. And not just current things. He also brought up parts of her record. And by the way, Tracy, if at any point you want me to stop something in the middle of the clip because you got to just say so and we'll just take it right back up.
I'm enjoying this.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's fine.
Seen the whole thing. I like to wait for clips sometimes.
Okay, so not only was he bringing up current day, he also brought up previous positions. And there are parts of this interview she really gets politely frosty because you can tell she's not enjoying what he's putting her through. And again, was it the toughest interview I've ever seen Bret Baier give? No. Was it tougher than she's usually getting? Yeah, I can agree with that. And with that, take a look at this one because, again, we're talking about a situation where he's bringing up the stuff she definitely does not want to get into.
This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
See, okay, I want to stop for 1 second here. I've noticed a couple things with her. When she's trying to be clever, you'll notice she does this. It's one of her tells. I mean, look at this look on her face. Look at this. And that's a law that Donald Trump followed. Like, you're trying to make your point, and you're doing it with your body language. And that's a law that he followed. You're just getting up and everything else. Okay, with that, let's go back to this thing, because there's more of this. It's a law that Donald Trump followed, and here's the rest of her answer.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy, and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened.
What? Did you hear what she just said?
Got to take responsibility for what happened in your administration. And that's the point. She's not even getting his point, that she's actually come out and said, I'm in favor of that. Donald Trump never said I was in favor of that. In fact, I'm sure if Trump could have, he would have changed that law.
I want to play that little snippet again, because that phrase is going to come back to haunt her. And with that,
prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Ladies and gentlemen, that might be all Donald Trump needs to put the last nail in her casket.
I wish he had circled back around and said, okay, well, let's talk about the last 3.5 years. Why does 4 out of 5 people say the country's on a bad path?
Yeah, if you got to take responsibility for what happens in your administration, when do you start doing that? And believe me, I haven't even got the Lake and Riley clip pulled up, and I wish I did. But man, I tell you what,
Lake and Riley came up. The Bill Clinton one, or here?
No. When the Lake and Riley got killed on the watch of Kamala and Joe.
No, you're talking about the Bill Clinton clip?
No.
Okay.
No. Well, yeah, it is the Bill Clinton clip. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Anyway, let's finish this thing.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
Again, that is a major mistake. How many different policy initiatives has Donald Trump put forward? No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security earnings.
Tax on overtime.
No tax on overtime. Tax deductibility.
Immediate deportation of anybody that is not here through the standard immigration system. Close the border wall. End the conflict in Israel and Ukraine. Cut energy costs by 50%. He's said a lot. He's going to
cut utility bills.
Pipeline.
Reduce the cost of utilities for the average American family. I mean, for her to sit there and make the argument that Donald Trump has offered no policy initiatives that impact the lives of the American people is just, I'm telling you, I won't go so far as to say she buried herself in this interview, but she did herself absolutely no favors, none whatsoever. I got one more, and this has to do with foreign policy, more particularly with Iran. Okay. And this is a pretty good exchange and a pretty good question, to be frank. And I tell you what, guys, watch her body language when she's getting asked this question, because she is really uncomfortable, and you can tell it. So this one runs a little bit long, and we'll stop it at what points we need to. But guys, this one has to do with the question of U.S. versus Iran.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there, most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military in doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
But those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime,
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
And it came from Joe Biden.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which.
Now, I don't know about you, Tracy, but that comment is damned insulting. Okay, and here's what I'm getting at. So basically, you don't like the questions he's asking. So now you're going to say, well, we need to have a conversation that's grounded in facts. Are you saying that the man asking the question is not in full control of the facts?
And he was showing the graph up there of how much the billions of dollars in revenue how it's increased since Donald Trump left office. The billions that Iran had access to.
Oh, I know.
And
I know.
who released the billions of dollars that we were holding to Iran? This administration did that.
Yeah, and Adam, you bring up a perfectly valid point. The Taliban now possesses a shitload of American material and munitions thanks to her. And
a lot of that has probably found its way to Iran, to Hezbollah, to Hamas, to Houthi.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and if we're going to take responsibility for what happens in our administration, that one's on you, Kamala, because you were the last person in the room with Joe giving him advice about how to do the Afghan withdrawal. So, there you go.
She's just getting frustrated and frustrated and frustrated.
That's evident throughout this thing. Anyway,
this is why she'll never do Rogan.
Yep, and we'll finish this clip and then we'll get into some discussions.
Which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choice.
Oh, I didn't catch that from earlier. This interview is supposed to be about
that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision.
A number of
she comes across as brittle. And that's not my word. That's Sasha Stone, if I may give her accurate credit for it. Brittle, angry. She comes across in a manner that I'm telling you, if she's trying to shore up the votes of men, either African Americans or white men or whoever, this is not gonna serve her well. I'm not saying this is a complete bad disaster. It's pretty close.
She's not going to do as well with women as she thinks, at least not married women. She's not going to do as well as she thinks with the suburban moms that are so precious to them. I think a lot of them, like we saw in Virginia when they elected Youngkin, I think you're going to see a lot of silent Trump voters that they're not even on the radar yet as far as polls and things like that. She's not going to do as good as with women as she thinks. Because I believe in more. I care more about the state of my country than abortion. All they want to talk about is abortion and IVF, which Trump has said many times he supports IVF. That's not even on the table. But abortion, no, it's with the states where it should be. I'm really sick of abortion and transgender being their only talking points. I'm just sick of it.
Yeah, I said that was my last clip, but I've got to put this one in, and I apologize, Tracy. I will.
No, let's go for it. I
Okay.
love it.
All right. The Laken Riley clip from this interview with Brett Baer. Guys, you're going to get mad. I love you, but I'm warning you now, you're going to get mad. And with that, here it comes.
Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed.
Look at the look on her face. I want to back that up just ever so slightly. Look at the look on her face.
If those men had been properly vetted.
Look at that. She knows it's coming.
Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Now she immediately tries to start deflecting. And honestly, and I'll play the rest of the clip here in a second, but this is a fair question. He's like, look, this is before the border bill that, that Trump got involved in. This is before any of that. Do you feel like you owe Laken Riley's family and these other families an apology for the way that the border was handled and that these individuals got across and committed these atrocities against these young ladies? And it's a completely fair question. With that, here's how she tries to answer it.
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will just
yeah, exactly. A policy decision.
I was hoping he would say that the border bill, which the reason Trump got Republicans to smash it, was because it was filled with all kinds of pork belly from funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, all this horse shit that didn't need to be in the bill. Just pass a border bill. That's why they killed it.
TBA over on Rumble says, I think her earrings are not working properly. Her answers are worse than word salad. Shut up. I'm word salading. This interview is supposed to be about me getting my way. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. There you absolutely, Adam. You're not wrong, brother.
I'm so glad he pushed back and said this was a result that the man that killed Laken Riley got in. I think it was right after Joe Biden was elected that he came through, I believe.
Yeah, and
let me double check that.
My apologies to your blood pressure meds and all that, but guys, I'm telling you, and these are just a handful of clips. I really recommend, go watch the whole thing. Don't eat any dinner before you do it, because you'll probably throw up, or you'll get mad, or you'll want to throw something across the room. Make sure you don't have any objects that aren't nailed down or tied up, but you really need to go watch this because I give Bear credit. Was he as tough as I would have liked to have seen? No, but he's tougher than what she usually gets. And this is something else we were talking about backstage, and I'd love to get your guys' comments in chat about this. Kamala Harris strikes me as the kind of person that does not handle pressure well. Now, here's what I'm getting at. She can see that, in various polls, her lead is slipping. She can see she's got trouble in this state. She's got trouble in that state. Reports are coming out that that she's diverting resources away from certain states, trying to drop them into others. She's trying to shore up one problem or another. Go ahead.
No. Ibarra, who is the potential killer of Lincoln Riley, he entered the United States illegally in 2022, and because of their catch, release, come back for your court date policy, he was never deported. And he had other crimes in which he should have been deported but wasn't.
Absolutely. And this, you can't blame that on a border bill. And that border bill would have let 5,000 people across the border every daggone day. Absolutely right. Among other reasons why it was killed. But
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just
no, that's fine.
Let everybody know that Lincoln Riley's killer got into this country a year. Oh, no, actually, a full year after Joe Biden, 13 months after Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took office.
Yeah, and my point is this: we're now down to under 20 days. Okay, and who knows what's going to happen here? I've got some suspicions, but who knows? I get the distinct impression the more the pressure ratchets up on her, the more you're going to see stuff like this. She made several different gaffes in that interview. If Trump's people are not working up the ads right now, I'll be shocked. I will be absolutely shocked. Yeah, and this is a good point too. What's she going to do when she gets pushed back from a foreign leader? Okay. Well, we don't know what anatomical part of her body she'll be getting on. But, point valid, my dear. Very point valid. Patty. Yeah, she could have apologized. She had a moment right there where she could have said, we were wrong, and I'm sorry, and I'm running to try to
do better on the border.
Yeah, we'll do better. And just blew it. Oh, my goodness. So with that, we're going to go ahead and switch over. It is 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock where Miss Tracy's at. This is my loving and gracious co-host, Tracy from GenX Marks the Spot. My name is Brian Trippett from the Front Porch Conservative Channel. We're here talking about the news, talking about culture, talking about all kinds of stuff. We thank you guys for being here tonight. You guys are totally awesome. So please give Tracy a sub on her channel. Give me a sub on mine. Spread the word around. Share the link. Hit the thumbs up. Leave a comment in chat. You guys know what to do. You guys have been doing it now for a while, and you're great at it. We love you for it. And we say, best audiences on the internet. All right, with that, Miss Tracy, take it.
All right, well, I've been noticing through Facebook posts from the few liberal friends that haven't blocked me, and just the leftist community on social media in general, that there's a whole lot of vitriol being thrown at LGBT conservatives or just LGBT Trump supporters in general, whether or not they're actually conservative or not. So I came across this Vox article. Now, Vox, I don't really consider it a true news, but it was an interesting article that I read.
Throw it up here.
Talking about how gay Republicans challenge America.
Interesting.
And that it just basically showing that that America is systemically homophobic just because, there's a rise of conservatism and unity partyism among gay individuals. Now, the log cabin Republicans, Brian, have been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah, at least 20, 30 years.
Exactly. So there's always been a gay representation in the Republican Party. And they have been working behind the scenes to get a lot of what I consider the harmful Republican legislation against gays. Now, I know a lot of your audience is conservative Christian. And I mean, I'm a gay Christian. I'll be the first to admit it. Okay. I don't want to get into discussions about, is it a choice? Is it a thing right now? But there have been a whole lot of harmful legislation put forth in this country against gay people. But a lot of that has changed. We now have full equality. I think a lot of things in our military, I served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I think Don't Ask, Don't Tell is the perfect way to handle it. Because our military, you should be one unit. Fighting is one cohesive unit. You don't need to know each other's sexual proclivities, whether you're gay, bi, straight, or whatever. You don't need to know that. So I was fully in favor of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But there have been a lot of laws, and all those have been reversed. And what the log cabin Republicans, along with Trump now being a major factor in the Republican Party, what has happened is that this year, 2024, is the first election, national election in the history of this country, since gays were recognized, by the population at large, that anti-gay legislation and anti-gay verbiage has been removed from the Republican Party platform. That is what log cabin Republicans have done for this country.
Interesting.
And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I had not realized that was the case with the Republican platform.
Yeah, this is the first time ever, and it's because of gay conservatives, gay Unity Party members, and Trump that has finally been removed.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that, and I could sit here and list a whole bunch of names of gay and lesbian public policy makers, politicians that have now either been elected to office, currently holding office, cabinet positions, etc. Do you think culturally the United States has reached the point where it's like, you know what? This person's gay, this person's straight, don't really care. Are you competent enough to do the job?
I think the majority, before 2016, when all this Trump derangement syndrome started, I think we had reached full capacity on that. Okay, it's gay marriage is legal. We're just going to leave it. No problem. You're gay, you're straight. Don't tell me. I don't need to know your sexual proclivities.
Yep.
That's the reason Don't Ask, Don't Tell never offended me. I didn't want to know what people did in the privacy of their own bedroom with consenting adults. I didn't want to know that. And I think that was fine. I served. My bunkmate knew I was a lesbian. She didn't care. And she's now retired military intelligence. She served for almost 30 years. She didn't care. They don't care because you know what? I was her sister in arms. That's all we see. And right now you have a military that is openly promoting people. We've come so far from MASH when you cross-dress to show mental illness so you get kicked out. Now they're lauding it. We have that abomination sitting up in a Navy admiral's uniform.
Richard Levine, yeah.
Fuck him, Brian.
Oh, I know. Well,
I'm of the opinion that LGB needs to just do a divorce from T. Just lop it off because they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
Sexual orientation versus gender identity. And it's just, ugh.
Totally good point. I remember, I'm old, and you are too. I'm old enough to remember, and this was when Bill Clinton got in, and he reversed the order on gays in the military. And I will never forget there were congressional hearings, and the legendary Barry Goldwater, who was still alive at the time, came to Congress to testify. Now, everybody knew Barry Goldwater, 1964 Republican nominee for president, arch conservative, libertarian, however you wanted to look at him. You could make an argument that he was the face of conservatism for decades until Reagan came along. And he went into this hearing. This is when the Democrats controlled both houses of Congress. And he sat down before the Armed Services Committee. He said, look, I don't see what the problem is here. You don't have to be straight to shoot straight. If we go the route of don't ask, don't tell, you've got the simplest solution of all here. In the end, that's what it ought to be because they're fighting and dying to defend their country just like a straight man or woman is fighting and dying to defend their country.
Exactly. And you need people in your military. I knew a whole lot of gay soldiers, gay Marines, gay navalmen that died serving this country.
Yep.
And they're Americans. Now, gay marriage, I think that was done in the worst possible way that it could have been done. I
Mhm.
don't think it should have been by mandate of the Supreme Court. That's not what the Supreme Court is for. That should have been sent back to the states and allow the states to vote on it. I probably would not have marriage rights here living in the state of Tennessee, but you know what? That would not prevent my wife and I from being together, because that's what a lawyer's for. That's what trusts are for. That's what living wills are for.
Civil
It's
union.
civil union. It's, there's options. I really wish they had not called it marriage, because historically marriage has been between a man and a woman, or in some cultures a man and several women, but it's primarily been a religious heterosexual kind of thing. They should never have called it marriage. If
Yep.
you had just said, if you put on the ballot that we want to allow same-sex people to have the same protections as tax-paying citizens as other tax-paying citizens, but we're going to call it civil union, we're going to call it Cleopatra, Queen of the Nile, whatever we're going to call it.
Yep.
I think the majority of Americans would have voted yes on that.
And here's the thing
But it's
to
because
me.
they co-opted the word marriage to be a bunch of dicks.
And there were a bunch of dicks who made the decision. You can make an
Yeah.
argument, but I mean, I can remember when the Supreme Court handed down the decision on gay marriage, and it was Justice Kennedy, the legendary swing vote on the court. And the irony of it is, talking about the fact that it should have been in the hands of the states. It was in the hands of the states, and then the Supreme Court said, "Nah, your state laws are kind of, forget the 9th and 10th Amendment. You just have universal right to gay marriage." And conservatives like Scalia and Thomas are sitting there going, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, I mean, I've heard Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast, Mike Harlow, whole bunch of people who made the same arguments. Like, we would have been so much better off in the gay and lesbian community if we would just had left the whole damned issue alone and just left it to.
It would have progressed to the point.
Yeah.
By popular vote, by vote of
Mhm.
Senate, by vote of legislature,
Yeah.
that it would have passed. And that's there. And now we have this whole thing where it could potentially be reversed.
Yeah.
If a lawsuit is put forth and it gets back to the Supreme Court, it could be reversed on the same
grounds.
way that Roe versus Wade, even though they said they won't, but you never know.
Well, and that's just it. The Supreme Court would have done, and this is going to sound insane to some people, but it's true. The Supreme Court would have done the American people a better service if they would have said, you know what? This is not a federal issue. The states have the rights to deal with this question however they wish, and we're not even going to take the case.
I wish, this is a very libertarian view, but I wish the government would get out of marriage altogether.
I agree with you.
You can go before a member of clergy or a state official or whoever and say, we want to join our lives and our families and our finances, and you put it down on a piece of paper, have somebody notarize it, stamp it, you're married, and if you want a divorce,
yep,
you're divorced.
That's it. I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree at all.
I know that's a terrible way to look at it, but I believe that we would have been better served. And I am so sick of the now there are some good teas out there, teas from my generation that I actually still call transsexuals. I'm friends, Blair White, Buck Angel. There's many of them out there, and people that I know in my private life as well that feel the same way I do, but they want the crazy part of T, Q, and the rest of it out of our community.
Oh, and you know what? I get it, because it's like, we take a step, then someone wants one step further, and now we're to the point where we got crazy all over the place. And how many different gays and lesbians, and you can speak to this, who are just say, I want to live my life. I don't need all this. I don't need all this. What I'm doing in the privacy of my own house behind my own closed doors is my own business. Am I trying to shove it down your throat? No. Are you trying to shove it down my throat? No. Okay. It kind of goes back to that discussion about Kirk Douglas and John Wayne. They never talked about certain subjects. Why? Because they weren't going to fight about it. It wasn't worth destroying their friendships over it.
I saw some comments down there. Okay, is it a choice kind of thing for some people, for a small percentage of this community? And I'm talking about the LGBT part. It is a choice. It is a choice to be this way. They've had trauma. They've had SA at some point in their lives. That happened to me.
Yeah.
I was abused by a female, which is very rare, but I was. And there's trauma there. And sometimes you just feel more comfortable. Although I knew I was attracted to girls in a different way by the time I was in kindergarten. I mean, that was pretty obvious. I mean, some people are born that way and some people no. But there is a sliver of our community that it is a choice. They just feel more comfortable with people of the same sex, and it is a choice.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I believe the whole thing. I mean, it differs from person to person, but whatever it is, you have the right to live your life the way you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But that's just the way I look at it. And
yeah, and we've come a long way from that episode of MASH where, this one soldier is telling Hawkeye Pierce, yeah, I got beat up. Well, why'd you get beat up? Well, something slipped in a conversation that, I shouldn't have let slip. Oh, what was it?
You're gay.
That he was gay. And Hawkeye's like, oh.
Sea bass? I can't either. That's why I like ladies. I love you.
This is where straight people and lesbians get along so well together. Yeah. Anyway, what else you got?
What M16 is saying there, it does concern me that they're letting all kinds of weirdos in under our umbrella. And it very concerns me that there was a slippery slope and we are going down it. And unfortunately, I hate to admit that was correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember when Rick Santorum, and this was on the issue of gay marriage years ago. He said, okay, you go this route. Here's where we're going to wind up. And everybody's like, bestiality. Oh, you're crazy.
Now we have furries running around all over the place.
Exactly. And
I'm not saying that's bestiality, but it's bestiality adjacent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people owe Rick Santorum an apology, at least on that one anyway.
Can I tell you, I was watching, I'm going to be doing a collaboration with a bigger GenX YouTuber in the upcoming weeks. And she just recently, go check her out. Natalie over at My So-Called GenX Live. She does all GenX nostalgia. You'd really enjoy it. But, she recently dropped an episode on basically a video essay on those very special episodes from 80s sitcoms, that we all remember. They'd occasionally have a very special episode that encountered something heavy, like on Mr. Belvedere, there was a little boy that had AIDS, that sort of thing. Well, there was a Different Strokes episode, a two-parter that I remember vividly as a child, where Arnold and his friend Dudley were groomed and essayed.
I remember the one you're talking about. I remember the talk. Yeah.
And I rewatched that episode recently in preparation for my discussion with her. And at the very end, when they're talking about what a predator is, one of the things they brought out, and this is 1983, one of the things Willis actually said, I never thought forget his name, anyway, the guy that played him was Howard from
Mr. Carlson from
WKRP.
Yeah.
But I never, I can't remember his name, but he said, I never suspected he was gay. And the police detective that was sitting there says, no, Willis, he's not gay. FBI statistics show that they are only interested in little boys or little girls. They are not gay. They do not care about consenting adults. Do not put them in the same category with gay people. That was 1983.
I remember.
And they were trying to separate gay people from that crowd. And now they're trying to ram them up our butt. Theoretically.
Proverbially speaking.
But we've come a long way and not in the right direction.
Yeah, very true. Very true indeed. So yeah, very, very good points all the way around. Anything else on this one, my dear?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
So no. You take, we're doing this for the first time and trying to work out, just you tell or give me the signal and we'll be like, oh, okay. All right. She's wrapping it up. So yeah, we're working this thing out for the first time, but we're having a lot of fun doing it. And Tracy, I tell you what, since we're sort of at the commercial part of our show, where can people find you on social media? What may they do to help you out, my dear?
You can find me on YouTube at GenX Marks the Spot. You can also find me on Twitter at GenX Marks.
There you go. And you can also find me in my usual haunts on Twitter. I'm the Front Porch C1. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Rumble, and my channel's The Front Porch Conservative. Please subscribe to both of us. Please follow us on Twitter so we can keep you fully apprised of everything we're thinking about or what we're up to next. And yes, I will be checking out the so-called Gen X Life channel. That sounds interesting.
My so-called Gen X Life.
My so-called Gen X Life. Okay, excuse me. All right. And got to thank WWG1 for one more of his wonderful memes. A lot of people have been speculating, what is Joe Biden going to do post-presidency? I mean, it's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's at a certain age in life. I mean, it's not like he's got to go out.
A certain age.
Yes, a man of a certain age. It's not like he's got to go out and, dig ditches or anything anymore. I mean, he's got nice houses. He's got the money.
He had enough Chinese money and Ukrainian money to last the rest of his life.
Yeah. Well, apparently, there are several different movie studios that have approached old Joe, and they'd like him to do some movie work, believe it or not. As a matter of fact, there is a remake that's in the works, and they think they have found the perfect part for him. Now, I don't know, guys. I don't know how this is going to go. Could he pull this off? I mean, could he really pull this off? I don't know. I don't know, guys. We'll see. I don't know if he's going to make it into the remake of The Wizard of Oz or not. So I don't know what's going to happen there. All right. Got to thank WWG1 for that one. Now, guys, I want to take you back in time to the debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. No, I need to redo it. Kamala la la la. There we go. Uh-huh. The debate between Donald Trump and Kamala la Harris. And there was a very interesting exchange that happened between President Trump and David Muir of ABC News. David Muir did something that he told everybody he wouldn't do on a subject that has gotten a lot of attention lately. And with that, I want to put this one up on screen and take you guys down memory lane. Listen to this.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst.
Okay, now I'm sure everybody remembers that clip, but I say that David Muir, which is my way, I have came up with that one, and I said Muir because he's kind of snooty sounding French, whatever the hell. Anyway, David Muir wasn't going to fact check anybody, right? Remember, he and Lindsay the bitch Davis basically said, nope, we're not going to fact check anybody. And sure enough, they did on the subject of crime. Now, remember what Trump said. Those are misleading statements. They're not including certain cities. Well, guess what came out today, much to the chagrin of the Biden administration. And, again, this is one of those moments where I'm sitting here wondering, is Joe Biden trying to screw over Kamala? Okay. From justthenews.com, we have the following. FBI 2023 crime data news release doesn't mention 2022 violent crime data was revised higher, says report. In September 2023, the FBI reported that the nation's violent crime rate fell by 2.1%, but the FBI quietly revised those numbers, releasing new data that shows violent crime increased in 2022 by 4.5%. Article by Nicholas Balazzi, we have the following. The FBI's 2023 crime data news release did not mention that violent crime was adjusted in 2022 after the initial data was released, wrote John R. Lott Jr., president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, in a Real Clear Politics investigative report on Wednesday. In September 2023, the FBI reported that the nation's violent crime rate fell by 2.1%, but the FBI quietly revised those numbers, releasing new data that shows violent crime increased in 2022 by 4.5%. Lott wrote that the FBI's website states that the 2022 violent crime rate has been updated for inclusion in CIUS 23. The revised data, however, was not specifically noted in the Bureau's September 2024 press release talking about 2023 crime stats. Lott's report noted that top Democrats, such as Vice President Kamala Harris, the 2024 Democrat nominee for president, continued to argue publicly that violent crime went down in 2022 despite the revised figures. Well, who'd have guessed it? The government lied to us. Call me shocked, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
I am shocked to the core.
It's like the jobs numbers. When they were all adjusted down by something like 880,000 jobs.
Yep.
But yet they're still coming out with these inflated numbers every
Yep.
month. Knowing that
Absolutely.
at the end of the quarter, they'll all be adjusted down again.
I know. It boggles the mind. It truly does. It's like, oh my goodness, with these people. It just, how many more fakeries are we going to catch you guys in? I mean, seriously. It's like, I
don't know if it's a concerted effort for Biden to. Could be. I mean, I've heard that behind the scenes, his staff is like willingly scheduling things when she's on TV so that it's preempted for him.
Yep. Oh, Gypsy, I think you're absolutely right, my dear. Solely for the debate. They wanted to get that on the record, and now this is going to come back to haunt them again. And if you're wondering more particularly, here is the release. The revised FBI data reveals that it originally missed almost 1,700 murders in 2022. Given all the murders are reported, how does the FBI miss that many numbers? It's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. Now, you might ask the question, well, how did they miss all this? Well, there's a reason for that. Keep in mind, the reporting of the statistics to the FBI, I won't say they're voluntary, but it depends in large part on whether a municipality chooses to report the data. And if you want an example of what I'm talking about, this is a tweet from Selena Zito, which, by the way, if you're not following Selena Zito, either her columns or her Twitter, you got to do it. This is probably one of the smartest people coming or going in the journalism industry today. And on top of that, you want to know what's going on in Pennsylvania? You got to follow Selena Zito because she's got her ear to the ground, her thumb on the pulse. She can tell you what's going on with the average yinzer. And if y'all know what that term means, yeah. And Robert, good point. It wasn't missed. They hit it. Yeah. Can't disagree. She's got a tweet that says, I reported in May how for the third straight year in a row, the city of Pittsburgh, run by Ed Gainey, did not turn over its annual numbers to the FBI, including homicides and assault, making it impossible for police and citizens to get a true picture of crime in the nation from the FBI. And Pittsburgh's not the only one. There are major cities across this country, particularly out in California. They're not reporting their stats. So when the FBI puts this information out, it's kind of like, well, if they at least add the caveat, on the basis of what we have right now, that'd be one thing. This is just so blatantly over the top. There ain't no getting away around it. I think Robert's right. They hid this. They didn't miss it.
Oh, no. You don't miss that many murders.
No.
You don't miss that many. You don't inflate those by jobs. They were including government jobs and all kinds of other jobs in that report that should not have been in there. That was supposed to be private sector jobs. And when they adjusted the government jobs out of it, it fell over the quarter by 800,000 jobs.
Absolutely. I mean, it's stuff
And they're
like,
still taking credit for the bounce back from COVID.
yeah. And here's the thing. It's like, people in the imperial city of Washington, D.C., they don't understand why the American people are so angry right now. And there is legitimate, palpable anger out there right now among the voters for the state of the economy, for inflation, for the rampant crime in the neighborhoods, for sons and daughters who are being killed either outright by illegal immigrants or because of the drugs they're bringing in. They're angry about so many different things, but yet people in Washington just don't get it. It's like, I don't understand. Everything is going so well. I don't understand why these plebes just aren't happy with us. We're doing a wonderful job. Really?
They believe their own lies.
Yeah, they really do. They believe their own BS.
They go into the government buildings that are heavily, heavily guarded.
Yeah.
And they go home to their gated communities.
Yep.
And in the suburbs and Maryland and Delaware and
Yep.
Virginia,
Yeah.
those very rich areas, and they live behind walls, and they have no idea what it's like.
No, none whatsoever, and they can't figure it out. They just, well, it's not that they can't figure it out. They don't want to figure it out because, as far as they know, this is the best way it's supposed to be. And if you plebes out there would just listen to us, your life would be so much better. And I think Gypsy's on to something. It's Black Americans who are angry, Hispanic Americans who are angry, white Americans who are angry, college educated who are angry, non-college educated. Pick whatever issue you want. There is palpable anger in the country right now.
And I think she has shot herself, Kamala's side has shot herself in the foot with many demographics, but I think the most interesting one is the Muslim population. Yep. And the very leftist Palestinian, Hamas supporting wing of the leftists. She shot herself in the foot with those because she's not putting on what they consider a strong enough stance for ending that war and a two-state solution. And she's not going to. You heard her just tonight in that interview drone on about how we will support Israel, and I think we should support Israel, but just drone on that same old corporate war machine answer about how we will continue to support. There are so many Muslims in the state of Michigan that are probably not going to vote for her for that reason. They may not vote at all. They might vote for Trump,
for Jill Stein,
or they're going to vote for Jill Stein.
Absolutely. And it should, if I'm Harris's campaign right now, I would be blatantly terrified. I really would. Truly, I would. I'll tell you what, Tracy, I'm going to let you do the commercial for both of us. I'm going to step away for one quick second.
Sure.
And I will be right back. And if you want to start the next topic, feel free to go right ahead and do it.
All right. Well, everyone, again, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to invite you to check out Brian over on his areas. You can find him at the Front Porch Conservative on Rumble. You can find him, of course, here on YouTube, and you can also find him at Front Porch 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter. Myself, you can find me here on YouTube at GenX Marks the Spot. You can find me on Twitter at GenX Marks. And so for my next topic, I think it's very interesting. Since the Democrats are always droning on about women's issues, I want to bring a women's issue that is very near and dear to my heart and out to the forefront, one that is often overlooked, and that's the question of surrogacy. Now, let me put this out there. I am not feminism, Seabass. I'm an old school 90s feminist in that I believe I should have the choice to get married, stay at home, or work a job. That's where my feminism ends. But for the most part, I want to talk about surrogacy. I want to talk about, should women in general be used as brood mares for people that can't naturally have children? And I'm not talking about infertile heterosexual couples. I believe that IVF is very important. I believe it should be protected. I believe Trump has already talked about protecting it. And I believe surrogacy in some circumstances is a good thing. But what I'm not in favor of is gay couples basically choosing women to carry their children and going so far as to genetically modify children in the way they want to be, like we're living in Gattaca or something, if you haven't seen the movie Gattaca. And along those lines, I am going to share an article that I found that was very interesting. There was a whole lot of hubbub recently about how conservatives are taking seats in both Italy, France. Well, this is what the Italian government has done. They have outlawed what they call surrogacy tourism, which of course, the leftists over there are saying that it will negatively affect same-sex couples, primarily same-sex male couples, that it makes it illegal for these couples to go abroad to have a baby via surrogacy and then bring it back to Italy. And of course, there's a whole lot of this is homophobic kind of thing, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Now, am I in the favor of the government getting so far into your personal life? No, not really. But I also believe that women should be protected. And I have read story after story of gay men and even lesbian women hiring a surrogate to have a baby and then refusing the baby or not giving the mother, the woman, the care she needs. And I really think what started out as a good thing has evolved into something else that is victimizing women. If that makes sense. Just like prostitution. For all the talk about sex work is real work and you should be free to do what you want to do, sure, to a certain extent. But I think for the vast majority of women that are in sex works, they are victims and they are stigmatized and they are victimized. And I believe the same thing with surrogacy. And I just thought that was an interesting article that evidently Italy has had a problem with people that can't get surrogates in Italy because of their stringent laws and all the hoops you have to jump through going into other countries where it's pretty much an open market like the United States and Canada, and bringing that baby back. So now they've kind of clamped down on that.
That is interesting. Now, you do have a response. Apparently, there are lesbian men here in the chat.
I can't believe I said that, guys. You know what I mean.
Who just want you to know they're here supporting you, Tracy. I'm just saying.
According to my lesbian friends that are still on dating apps, there's a whole lot of lesbian men out there on the dating apps now. They just put on a skirt and call it a day.
Gotta ask Harlow about that the next time I talk to him. But anyway, that is.
And I'm torn between the government getting that far involved in your personal life to having to pass a law to protect women from what they believe is exploitation.
So you're not talking about, I mean, for example, a heterosexual couple, they're wanting to have a baby. They can't. That's not per se.
That's not what they're talking about. They're literally worded such a way that they're stopping two men that just want to go out and have a baby, hire a woman to have a baby and all this stuff. Kind of like Dave Rubin and his husband did. Not that I have anything against Dave Rubin, but if you read through their story, it was a little creepy.
Yeah. Okay. So what have we got in certain nations? Like surrogates are us or something, like, two individuals want to go have a baby, like two men want to have a child. They go to surrogates are us. And now
they go through a lawyer, usually an adoption or a surrogacy lawyer, that they go to. There's actually like agencies out there that have surrogate people that have gone through medical exams and stuff like that are willing to have a baby for another couple. They arrange interviews and stuff like that, and then they choose somebody to have their baby. And there's been a lot of cases where the people have gotten mad because the baby was the wrong sex, because there was something wrong with the baby at birth, and then not want to take possession of it. And just the fact that what they pay these women oftentimes is not enough. In my opinion, they pay their medical bills and they pay them a fee, but pregnancy and birth can break down a woman's body. And I think it has reached the point when it's unfettered that it is exploitation of women. I've spent 9 months of my life gestating a baby, and you've paid my medical expenses, and then you've given me $20,000. That doesn't sound like a whole lot for 9 months of my life for that kind of.
No.
And you usually have people that are women, just like people that get sucked into prostitution, thinking it's their only option that this happens to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I got to chew on that one because I'm kind of like you. I'm torn because it's like, do you really want the government mandating a law like this? But then again, under the circumstances you're describing, you can kind of understand why. Laying aside the question of, should these two individuals be adopting? It's like, here you have a woman going through all of this, and it's like, ooh, man.
I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate, but surrogacy is just one of those things that I'm right on the fence about. I believe it's a valuable service for infertile couples that need it, but couples that, I guess this is what I'm saying. I'm gay. If you're in a gay couple, in a gay relationship, that biologically kids are not possible. There's a whole lot of kids out there that need homes.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps look into adoption before you go to a broodmare and go through it that way.
Because it's like, is this where we're really heading here? And this gets into kind of a side note, but I can see where this relates, and
and also heterosexual couples abuse it. Sometimes there's people.
Oh yeah.
Kim Kardashian had a surrogate because she didn't want to destroy her body.
Yeah.
So let's destroy a plebe's body.
Yeah. Whose name is not Kardashian. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're starting to get into some very territory that I never thought we'd be getting into cultural discussions about. For example, and Christian Watson has been talking about this for a little while. There are proposals going forward about, using tax code as a way to try to increase American population because the birth rate is so low. Well, hey, if you have kids, we'll do this for you in the tax code or that for you in the tax code. It's like, yeah, but why can't we just have a discussion about, why it's good to have, the culture, or why it's good to have families. So basically,
we need to strengthen the family. We've gone so far from that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I know that the tax code, like almost any set of laws, is used to promote certain policies. I get, especially with the tax code, I get that. But do we really want to take it now this one new step further? Why can't we have discussions about, strengthening the culture again so that, families, want to have families, not because necessarily the tax advantages, because we love each other, we want to have kids, and we want to propagate the human race.
Promote strong families, make strong children, make less crime, make better economies. That's what we need to focus on.
Yeah. Now, if you want to change the tax code around to make it easier for parents to stay at home, that one person's salary, can help them raise a family. Okay, I'm down for that. I am all about that. I got no problem with that at all.
I am absolutely willing to sit here and say that my relationship with my wife is not as valuable to society as a whole that it would be if I was straight and married Brian. Our relationship would be a whole lot more valuable if we married when we were young enough to have kids, because reproduction is part of what we need. Our relationship would be a whole lot more valuable to society than my relationship, current relationship is. And if you're a gay person and cannot accept that, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Not saying that you're not a valuable person and that your partner's not a valuable person, but from a societal level, our relationships are not as valuable to society as heteronormative relationships because they produce children. We're seeing that right now. With birth rates that are not at replacement. And what has caused that? The decline of the family. And I'm not talking about women that, the rise of single moms and stuff like that. Some single moms are single moms because they had no choice in the matter. They married somebody crappy and got left. But you're having women that are having lots of children out of wedlock and turning to the government to be daddy. That's not right. We need to Do
and they're
something about that.
and they're being their own form of broodmare, but for under a
Exactly.
different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we're getting into more and more stuff that I never thought that, talking about, the birth rates are to the point that, it's not replacing population. Well, when you take 50 million children who were aborted over the course from 1973 to now, it does have economic consequence. Whether you want to look at it that way or not, it absolutely does.
Ask China.
Yeah.
China. Their one-child policy has screwed them.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to let the information out, but what information is coming out, their economy is probably going to collapse here in the next 10 years simply because they don't have enough younger workers coming out to support the people that are retiring because of their one-child policy.
Yep.
Same thing here. We've aborted 50 million children.
Yeah.
If those 50 million children had been allowed to live, hopefully we would have 50 million workers entering the workforce, and the Democrats wouldn't have the excuse that that's why we need to let in illegal migrants.
Yeah, and I mean, and here's some interesting other thoughts about it. I mean, what if we would have had someone in that 50 million group of people who would have invented whatever,
or cured cancer,
or cured cancer, or we'd have had our own Elon Musk, or Elon Musk's competitor. Which, by the way, did you see the landing of that booster rocket the other day back on the pad?
Mm-hmm.
That has got to be one of the most amazing technological feats I've ever seen.
That's what I saw so many leftists calling him Phony Stark, Tony Stark. And I'm like, he sends people to space. What is phony about him?
That man.
What is phony about him?
There's a content creator, and I'm sure you're familiar with him, Lionel.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and I cannot disagree with this assessment, Elon Musk is the 21st century version of Howard Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. It's just that man's mind works like 24/7.
Yeah.
Barely sleeps, and he's always thinking about something. It's just, it's amazing to watch. Absolutely amazing.
And, I don't care if he's using other people's technology. He was the one that could bring it together and turn it into something.
Well, hell, Bill Gates used somebody else's technology. I mean,
Yeah.
Or as I jokingly tell people all the time, I'm never the fellow that invents the wheel. I just figure out how to make it roll better. Yeah. That's what, and Elon, in his case, he's just figuring out how to make the wheel roll better. And he's doing a great job of it, by the way.
The government's not sending us to space right now. Hell, they can't even get our space station out of orbit right now.
Jeez, ain't that true?
It's private companies that are going to send us to. Yeah, the robots freak me out too.
Yeah, that's a future I'm not so sure I'm down with.
I don't think I want to be. I hope that I have shuffled off this mortal coil before that comes into mainstream fruition in the next 50 years. I mean, I don't want to see all jobs replaced. I mean, there is a limit, because what is humanity going to do? At that point, we will have to talk about something like universal basic income, because how are people going to live if you can't work because robots have taken over everything?
I had flashbacks to the age of Ultron watching those robots walk out. I was like, oh, crap. Sean from the Third Railify is here. Good evening to you, sir. Had a wonderful discussion with him the other night on my channel. And by the way, subscribe to the Third Railify channel. Sean is a brother who's trying to grow that baby, and let's help him out in whatever ways we possibly can.
Seabass down there has mentioned, would you like to know more, referencing one of my favorite movies and graphic novels of all time, Starship Troopers? Yes, I would love to know more. In fact, I think there's a lot of good things that we could take from Starship Troopers. I won't talk about that now, but perhaps on our future discussions, we can talk about Starship Troopers and the good points of that.
Absolutely.
Because the Federation wasn't all wrong.
True dat indeed. So, but yeah, that whole question about, outlawing of surrogacy, under the circumstances that you're describing it as to why it's being done, okay, I can see that. But yeah, that gets into all kinds of murky questions, all kinds of really murky questions, Anyway, so tell you what, any other points on that one before I
No, I just think it's an interesting cultural phenomenon that we're even having to make laws to restrict something like that, which should be a private matter. It should never have gotten to the point of government interference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, indeed. All right, I tell you what, folks, we're going to bring the train into the station with one last topic. And I want to thank Gypsy in part for this, because in her very prescient sort of way, she has foreseen something that is now being openly discussed in a lot of quarters, and that is the state of the American mind in the event if Donald Trump should win on November 5th. Okay. And there is a great concern among, and this is not a setup to a joke. This is a straight legitimate topic. She had messaged me a little while back, DM through Twitter about, some thoughts about some different things. I won't necessarily get into all of it, but the overall topic was, what is the mindset going to be if Trump wins, especially with, all the factors that surround people who are on Kamala's side, thinking, A, she's going to win this thing. She's got in the bag. Trump's a Nazi, yada, yada, yada. Well,
about the Tucker Carlson clip where
that's just where I'm heading. Mark Halperin, who I didn't have a lot of use for, but more and more I'm starting to realize, this dude's talents was wasted over at ABC. Sat down with Tucker Carlson. And if you have not, I haven't watched all of this yet, but I've seen a few clips of it. This looks like a really good interview. And as always, Tucker is bringing it. He is. I know that when he got fired from Fox, it must have been a frustration or a disappointment or a letdown to one degree or another, depending on how Tucker looks at it. But on the other hand, I would make an argument that for his creativity and for what he's able to do now, he's got the whole world ahead of him, the capability to do all kinds of stuff. So Mark Halperin sat down with Tucker, and they got into a discussion of what is going to be the mindset of the American people if Trump wins. And this clip is pretty amazing. It runs about 3 minutes, but it's worth the whole thing. And I'm not going to interrupt this. And then when we get done, we'll get back into a discussion of it. Here you go.
Let's say Trump wins 3 weeks from today. Mm-hmm. What happens? The Democratic Party as you said, a lot of Democrats, maybe the majority, believe that Trump becoming president again is the worst thing that ever could happen. So how do they respond to that?
I say this not flippantly. I think it will be the cause of the greatest mental health crisis in the history of the country. I think tens of millions of people will question their connection to the nation, their connection to other human beings, their connection to their vision of what their future for them and their children could be like. And I think that will be require an enormous amount of access to mental health professionals. I think it'll lead to trauma in the workplace. I think there'll be some degree of.
Are you being
serious? 100% serious. 100% serious. I think there'll be alcoholism. There'll be broken marriages.
What?
Yeah. They think he's the worst person possible to be president, and having won by the hand of Jim Comey and Fluke in 2016, and then performed in office for 4 years and denied who won the election last time, and January 6th, the fact that under a fair election, America chose by the rules pre-agreed to Donald Trump again, I think it will cause the biggest mental health crisis in the history of America. And I don't think it will be kind of a passing thing that by the inauguration will be fine. I think it will be sustained and unprecedented and hideous. And I don't think the country's ready for it.
So mental health crises often manifest in violence.
Yeah, I think there'll be some violence. I think there'll be workplace fights. There'll be fights at kids' birthday parties. I think there'll be protests that will turn violent. I hope they're not, but I think there will be some. But I think it will be more. It'll be less anger and more a failure to understand how it could happen. Like the death of a child, or your spouse announcing that your wife announcing she's a lesbian and she's leaving you for your best friend, like a something that's so traumatic that it is impossible for even the most mentally healthy person to truly process and incorporate into their daily life. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's what's going to happen for tens of millions of people, because they they think that their fellow citizens supporting Trump is a sign of fundamental evil at the heart of their fellow citizens and of the nation. That's how they view it.
Okay, let's get into this. I can remember, and Tracy, I'm pretty sure you can too, a time when if you were on the losing side of a presidential race, in other words, the person you wanted to see win didn't win, you said, shucks, that's bad. Okay, I got to go to work in the morning. Bye, honey. I'll see you later. That's how we treated it. Because there was a time when politics was not the be-all and end-all of life in America, be it in our neighborhoods, in our cities, our towns, our states, our country. So you got that going on. Then you've got a whole group of people that, I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe it. They're mentally disturbed. And they've been fed, conservatives are evil, conservatives are wrong, they don't like you, they're going to try and lock you up. If you're a different skin color, they'll take you to a camp. If you're gay or lesbian, they're going to take you to a re-education camp. I mean, all people being fed ideas by people trying to either obtain or maintain political power. And then you've got Donald Trump, who frankly did nothing other than, say, this is what I want to do, go in for 4 years and try and do it. And again, in the name of trying to obtain and retain political power, he's evil, he's a Nazi, he's wrong, he's this. And then you throw in a bunch of people in the polling industry that historically are inaccurate. I'm not sure if Halpern's exactly right about the biggest mental health crisis in America. But if we're headed for the same kind of thing this year that we had happen in 2016, Robert's absolutely right. Doesn't matter who wins. Let me find his comment here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, no matter who wins, it's going to be unpleasant. It will. So, like I say, I don't know that Halpern's totally right about this, but yeah, you're going to see some people lose their shit. They really will.
Now, do I think it's going to be on the scale that no, of course not. We've already got a mental health crisis in this country. And hopefully, we can go about bringing some unity back at some point once we get the economy fixed, once we get out of what I think is a proxy World War III right now. Once we get out of all of that, I think we can go about healing. And I think Trump and his administration is the way to start that healing. Do I think there's going to be an epic with cities going down in fire? No, I do not. I think there's going to be unpleasantness. There's going to be a lot of screaming on Twitter, a lot of screaming online. It's going to expose the mental health that we already know is there. And they're going to get snippy and they're going to get violent, and there's going to be talk about don't certify the election, and that's going to cause some, catty back and forth. The bottom line, if he wins and the Republicans take the Senate and keep the House, they're going to certify the election. There's going to be a transition of power. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sick of all the fear mongering. I'm sick of everybody saying this and that. This is the United States of America. No matter for better or worse, we're going to do business. We're going to turn this around. And we're going to come back. I don't believe this country is going to fall anytime soon. I think we've got some healing to do. I think we need to turn some things around. But this is still the United States of America, one nation under God. And I am so sick of fear mongering. Even if Kamala wins, this will not be the last election. I'm sick of fear mongering on our side too. It'll be 4 years of crap and we'll be even worse off than we were. But there will be another election. And I am so sick of fear mongering. I'm just stop.
Yeah. And it needs to. At some point, it's like name of God. It's like, can we please give it a rest? Can we please come together as a people? Please. I mean,
and can I get the chat just to type USA? Let's go out on a positive note.
exactly,
USA.
exactly.
USA.
Exactly. I'll start it. I'll start it. Give me 1 second here. Or, either break out into "This is my country." This is my country. There you go. Yeah. So, pray for each other, watch out for each other. We still America. So we're going to get through this thing. And it's like Winston Churchill once said, the Americans will always do the right thing only after we've exhausted every other possibility. And I'm pretty sure we're there. So there you go. All right. With that,
I think Trump's going to win. I think he's going to win sizably. I think he's going to take the Electoral College. I also think he's going to take the popular vote. My prediction. And I don't think I'll be eating crow.
There are signs. There are signs and portents that are leading me to believe your assessment could very well be true. Just a lot of signs and portents. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and bring this train into the station. Tracy, I want to thank you for being here on my channel tonight. Next Wednesday night, I am on her channel, and we're going to do this thing for a while, bounce this thing back and forth. But I've had fun doing this tonight. I like the format. Yeah. And if you guys have recommendations on how we can improve it, message Tracy, message me. We will take those recommendations and see if we can incorporate them. And by all means, we will keep an eye on that. Absolutely, we'll keep an eye on that. So we're going to do this again 2 weeks from tonight. Next week, I'm on her channel. Tomorrow night, I have the second of the three amigos, as I'm calling them. We have got Chris from the Morning Mayhem channel coming on. We're going to talk to him, try to figure out what's going on, see if we can see where he's coming from, and basically get to know this guy a little bit better. So, all right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, Tracy, any last words? Again, plug your social media channels, and we'll take it out.
No, come find me over on YouTube and on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Okay. And you guys know where to find me on Rumble and on YouTube and on Twitter. And with that, Tracy, hang on a second. We'll say some proper goodbyes. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern, for my conversation with Chris from the Morning Mayhem channel. With that, we love you guys. Have a great night, and we'll catch up with you later. Bye-bye.